includes taxes, insurance, principal, interest. I'm making about $354 a month cash flow. I manage this one myself. Not bad. I'm all in this house for $98,000. Actually, I've had it for almost a year now, so in 14 years I'll have it paid off, and the value is really only going to go up, and the rental rates will only continue to go up. So this is how I have, now understand, this is one of my nicer properties. I've got cheaper properties where I've got loan balances of $50,000, things like that, and everything in between. But this to me is an average Memphis transaction. This is what it's looking like for me. And like I said, this can work for you, and it was kind of funny because I went online this morning before when I was trying to tidy up my presentation, and I was like, how can I put a Santa Barbara example on there like this? And I thought to myself, boy, you know, that $850,000 home that was 700 square feet just wasn't fitting the bill. But and then, I mean, to put it in those terms, if you found a home that was worth $1 million and you could get it for $600,000, and I know that maybe sounds crazy, but it can happen. You can find those deals. It might not be the listed deal on the MLS where everyone's going to see it. It might be that off-market deal, bandit sign, for sale by owner type deal. You never know. But if you can find a house where you can buy it for $600 and it needs $50,000, $60,000 in rehab, now yeah, your loan origination fees and interest and things like that, it's gonna get expensive. But if you don't have the money to do it yourself, to purchase that cash and do a cash out refinance. The only difference between a cash out refinance and doing hard money refinances is that if you can do a cash out refinance, you've got the cash where you're taking it down yourself. I don't have the cash to take $600,000 deals down by myself, so I'd have to borrow money. But they're out there, and you can find those deals. But this is the strategy that I've used to purchase all of my rental property. Yes.
That borrowing, however, does not show up in your credit record?
The hard money, no. No. Typically what's going to happen is the hard money lender, along with your closing attorney, they're going to create a promissory note, and that's not going to show up like on any loan. Like if another bank pulled your credit, they're not going to see that loan. They'll obviously see the permanent one once you get in place with the lender.
That's a beautiful house, by the way.
It's my nicest one. It is fantastic. That's why I showed that one. I also wanted to show you kind of this example of a home to kind of give you another perspective. I know that I've been talking about some other creative strategies, little or no money down. I know to the California investor, $20,000 is probably considered little down when you're dealing with such expensive real estate. So in this example I'm going to show you, this is an actual, and actually Craig and I met with these folks 2 days ago at Starbucks in LA. What was it, down in the Irvine area? Close to that area. They're new clients of ours, and this is a property that they're purchased from us. It's actually in the same neighborhood where I just showed you where my house was. 4-bed, 2-bathroom, 2-car garage, 2,950 square feet. It's got a nice formal dining room, large living room, bonus room. There's retail values in the area of $150,000 to $160,000. We actually contemplated whether we wanted to actually do this retail or not. But then we decided that we just didn't really want to deal with the headache of another realtor and all. We just didn't want to deal with it. So we figured we'll take it the investment route. So we sold it to them for $135,000. They're doing 20% down financing. It's going to rent for $1,400 a month. Simple cash flow is going to be $373 a month on this property, taken into simple account the rent minus their total mortgage payment and property management fees. They're going to get a 14% return on their money, and the price per square footage, which probably makes you laugh, is $46 what the price per square footage is, when in Memphis I think the average new build price is $100 plus to build. And $100 out here is probably laughing for you guys. Can you do new builds for $100, or how much is it? Anybody know? 300? I mean, I don't know. But, and then I actually have some photos of this one that I wanted to show you here. Now, the pictures on the left are the kind of like the before, and I know it's hard to see, I apologize. The pictures on the left are the before and the right are the after. So it was blue, we went with a more gray color. In the kitchen, I don't know how the pictures got messed up there, but you can kind of see what the kitchen was before. That's the living room after on the bottom right. Another, like I said, I really apologize. It's hard to see these photos, but Some of the big differences, like in the kitchen, we took off those really awesome outdated blue countertops. And I've never done this before, but Craig suggested we would go with kind of like a, what is it, like a marble tile countertop. I had a hard time envisioning what that was gonna look like until we saw it, and it's the nicest thing I've ever seen, maybe next to granite. It's awesome. Like, I want to do it more. So that, you know, one thing as investors here that you might have to consider is investing out of state, long distance, to make your money work for you. I know, you know, one of the reasons that Craig and I came here because we have a large client base on the West Coast, and we've been in the LA area meeting with some of them. And the true reality is that how much money do you have to buy real estate in your neck of the woods here? Some people might have to consider other markets. And there's a lot of hot markets around the country right now that you can look at. You can talk to Linda, talk to Dan, talk to us, and we can tell you where all the hot places are. If you're looking for maybe more of a buy and hold strategy, that's really why you would be interested in buying out of state anyways, for that long-term positive cash flow. Partnering up is another example that you can do. And I tried to put this in a simple format here. So the example here would be, you have a scenario where you have good credit and you do qualify for financing, but you just don't have enough money as a down payment. So in this example, you find a partner or another investor who does have the funds, either all of it or some of it. It might be a deal where it's a joint 50-50 partnership here, whatever the dynamics are. So now this person, this new partner of yours, they have to take their funds and they have to deposit it into your account. Now typically when you go to apply for a loan, you know the lender's going to say, we need to see your last 2 bank statements. That deposit cannot show up in those last 2 bank statements. If it does, you're not going to get qualified, yes.
That'd be 2 months worth of bank cycles.
Correct. So typically by the time this person puts their money into your account, you're going to have to wait 2 to 2.5 months on average for that money to season into that account. So now, you as the investor who qualifies, and you've got that money, and you and your silent partner have agreed on what property you're going to buy for the partnership. You do the loan process, you purchase the home, everything's great, and now you've closed on the property. So what's next, right? Typically in this example, and you know, it depends on the entity that you and your partner agree on, but I'm using an LLC for an example here. Typically what's going to happen is you and your business partner are going to form an LLC where your partner's on it, and you will quit claim transfer that home into your new company LLC, and you and your partner will have to, amongst you, will figure out what any splits are, or how you're going to divide up cash flow, or whatever the scenario is. One suggestion that I would make though is that if you do something similar to this, you don't want to quit claim it instantly after you close on it. Talking with our closing attorney, because it's possible that your lender, if they see that you have transferred the home out of your name into another entity, they'll enforce what's called the due on sale clause. Basically, that just means that you're going to have to take it out of your name and put it back, and then that kind of muddies the waters of your partnership that you have with the other individual. They might want their money back. I mean, who knows? But you would typically want to wait 90 days. I asked our closing attorney about this, and he said that that's what he would suggest. The only time that he's ever seen a lender force that due on sale clause is with someone who's done it right away. So wait just a little bit. But is that a simple enough example on how this could work? And you could flip this around. You could be the person who has the money, and someone else could be the one buying the home. It just depends. Seller financing. Does anybody not know what seller financing is? Fantastic. All right. Basically, this is a scenario where the seller is going to act like the bank, and you are the buyer. You could also offer seller financing. It could be flipped around. I'm going to actually show an example of how I offered a home up seller financing in the next slide. But in seller financing transactions, financing terms are typically going to be negotiated up front for a future close date. Buyer and seller are both going to sign the purchase and sale agreement, and your closing attorney is basically going to create the promissory note outlining the terms of the transaction. Documents are going to be notarized, it'll all be legal and official. There's really two ways to do it. There's after you have completed these steps, you really have to decide, is the home going to actually be transferred or quitclaimed into these new buyers' names, or are you still going to hold on to the home in your name? In my example I'm going to show you, I'm going to hold it in my name, and there's this really good reason why, and I'll tell you that in a minute. But that's something you need to consider. Does the seller still have a mortgage or not? Some people want to know, do I make my payment to the seller? Do I have the mortgage? Do we forward the mortgage, the monthly statement that comes in the mail? Do we have that keep coming to the house and they pay it? That's really something that you would have to figure out with the person that you're offering up seller financing to. If you do what my closing attorney told me that we should do if we were quitclaiming it into the buyer's names is you would want to have them, the new owners, sign what they call a reverse quitclaim up front in advance. So they're basically signing in advance the rights to give up the home at any given time should you want to take it back if they default on payments. And the reason you do this is that it's the fastest way for you to get the home back and avoid having to do foreclosure. Because if not, you have to go through the foreclosure process. So here's an example. I still think, Craig, this is the greatest real estate transaction I have ever done in my whole life. I found this house that it was a foreclosure, and I wasn't necessarily looking for it. This is the house that I was telling you guys earlier. This house finally hit at $299,000, and I made a cash offer. Now understand, this is my primary residence, and I purchased this home using my hard money strategy. And the reason why it worked, because there's a huge amount of equity that I had. So I bought this home for $285,000. I borrowed a private money loan. I was in the whole thing for $350,000 by the time I refinanced it with my lender. Made all the repairs and upgrades. Like I said, the house was priced for $600,000. It's 6,700 square feet. What's that worth here? Like $2 million, $3, $4, $5 million? Goodness, right?
10-foot ceilings?
Yeah, the house was awesome. I found out that it had a secret room 10 days before I moved out. Behind the bookcase, they used to, the neighbor lady told me that the previous owner, a guy who went to jail for embezzling money, that's where he used to keep his safe. Boy, I couldn't wait for her to get out of the house. I was praying that I was going to open it up. I was trying to hurry up, take the family photos off the shelf because I wanted to open that puppy up. And I was praying that there's going to be a big safe back there. And I opened it up and there was nothing. It was just a little empty room, but still, it was exciting there for like 5 minutes. Come now the time, fast forward here, I try to sell this house. I want to sell. My wife and I want to move it to a different area. We want our kids to go to a better school. Sadly, the school district in this awesome area was not what we were looking for, so we decided to move. So I list this home on the market for $649,900, and I listed it at that price because the neighbor across the street sold his house for $695 in 11 days, and I thought, wow, this is great. My house is bigger. His was nicer. I had an awful experience here. I was getting 0 offers. Things weren't working out the way I wanted. I lived in a homeowners association here. No renting. Can't rent. Owner occupant only. Don't worry. We'll get to that here in a minute. Don't worry. Okay, so after no avail, an agent comes to me and she's like, oh, will you consider owner financing? I'm like, gosh, maybe. So after much hassle back and forth, I worked out a deal with some people to do owner financing. I didn't really want to do this, understand, but I was getting to a point where I was becoming desperate. I had to do it. I had to do this.
Was it a time thing?
It was I couldn't stand paying 2 expensive mortgages then. So the terms that I agreed, understand now I have a current balance on my home of $400,000. My monthly payments are $26.50. That's what I'm paying, principal, interest, tax, and insurance. I negotiate terms of a sales price of $489,000. It's a 3-year term. They're putting $7,500 down up front, and they're doing $5,000 each year for the next 3 years. And they're paying me an escalating payment scale. First year $2,850, second year $2,950, third year $3,000, with a 1-year extension should they need it, with another $5,000 down and $3,000 a month. It's all interest only. None of this payment is a credit for them. The only credit they're having is their non-refundable down payment money that they have to put down every single year. Now, the 3-year cash flow that I'll look to make is right around $10,200, but my estimated profit, because understand they're paying down my principal for me for the next 3 years, and by the time I pay commissions and closing costs to their agent, which I'll still have to pay that agent 3 years from now, I'll make somewhere around $80,000 profit. And but one of the things I was telling you earlier was you know how I talked about the whole quit claim or making them sign a reverse quit claim? Well, once my lawyer neighbors found out that I was going to do owner financing, the very next day at my new house, I got a cease and desist letter from the homeowners association, basically telling me that I can't do that and whatnot. So I called my lawyer that I've used in the past before in collaboration with my closing attorney, and it only cost me about $2,000 to figure out that seller financing type transactions like this are legal real estate transactions. And therefore, I was able to move a family into my home, and voila! Now, I did not quit claim it into their name. Do you want to know why?
Not because they.
No, because I knew that they would call my mortgage company and tell them what's going on, and then they would force that due on sale clause. So I just basically followed the advice of my closing attorney and I did it that way. So I basically put in place what's called a contract for deed. Seller, it's got the seller financing language in there, but you know we did it legal. We had all the documents notarized. I paid their real estate agent a small percentage of their commission up front. There was a closing HUD and everything like that. So I still own the home, but I've got owner financing clients in it. Yes.
They record that deed?
They did not.
Did you have a clause that did not record it?
Correct. Correct. So
So lawyers are good people sometimes.
you better believe it. It's even better, like after you have a couple email exchanges with them, then you get like a bill, email exchanges. So, but does that kind of give you an example on how seller financing works? And I understand I gave it to you all in the example of me selling the home. You just have to put yourself, if you wanted to purchase homes using this scenario, you could do it the exact same way. You're just negotiating terms. Yes?
Does the buyer get any tax benefits?
Zero. I just did my taxes with my CPA, and I don't understand half the stuff he tells me anyways, even though I sit there and nod like I do. We did my taxes in such a way that I recorded this as a sale right now, like the home is sold. Because in 3 years from now, because you know how if you sell a home that you own, you don't get whacked with taxes, but if it's an investment property, you do. I had to do my taxes as such as I actually sold the home now, so that when I make my $80,000 in 3 years, I get to keep all of it, as opposed to having to give away a chunk of it.
Okay.
Follow my CPA's advice.
So, you know, the home will be sold for sure 3 years from now, but for tax purposes, you just advance that to now.
Right now, yes, yes. And there was a logical reasoning that he gave you why you do it now.
Tax
Because
purposes.
exactly. So plus, yes.
Now, if the buyer decides to get a loan and just cut this off and just pay you so they don't have to deal with this anymore, they can do that, or did you set up a penalty for that?
Oh no, I'd love nothing more for them than to buy it right now. But in all reality, between you and I and the camera, I don't care if it takes them 10 years to do this. I don't care. Because you know what, if they default and they move out, I'll put somebody else in there again under the exact same term.
Either way.
Exactly. But like I said, just kind of look at the seller financing example as not maybe necessarily you're selling the home like I did in this scenario, but put yourself in the buyer scenario to where you're doing this to get the home to rent out. And I'll kind of give an example on the future slides coming up here. How am I doing in time? Pretty good? All right, I need to speed up. So Craig needs to come out here.
Actually, 2:30, let's see, 3:30, what time have we got right now?
Clock right.
3:34?
3:30, okay,
All
so
right.
here's the deal. Craig here is gonna get a half hour,
Yeah.
but I'm not going anywhere, and if everybody else is fine.
You guys all right? I'll speed this up a little
We
bit.
can go over, then we'll let him speak another half hour, speak for an hour if you want.
All right.
You normally don't come in here until us to get lost.
That's all right.
So I think we're okay.
Well, listen, as long as I can keep an entertained crowd, we're doing okay.
There you go.
Sandwich lease options, again, Memphis, Tennessee statistics with 2 or 3, 4 more zeros behind it. We're in Santa Barbara. Understand that in sandwich lease option scenarios, it's okay to pay close to retail pricing, because understand in real estate investing, everybody wants a discount, right? Everyone wants to get it as cheap as possible. When you're doing stuff like this on sandwich lease options, seller financing, it's okay to pay closer to retail pricing or retail full price as long as the terms are favorable. That's all that really matters, is the terms that you negotiate. So here's an example of how a sandwich lease option could play out. So you find someone who wants to sell their home and they want 75 grand for it, and say it carries a current market value of about 85,000. You're agreeing to the 75,000 because the terms are going to be fairly favorable for you here. You're going to put down $1,000 down payment to the seller, non-refundable. As of right now, your skin in the game is $1,000. You're going to negotiate a monthly payment to the seller of $600 for a term of 5 years. This is a 5-year sandwich lease option term. And you can purchase this home sooner, anytime within that 5 years. So as of right now, you're $1,000 out of pocket. When you do sandwich lease options, you only want to find a renter who is looking to lease purchase. Now in the Memphis market, that's maybe more difficult than it may be here. As what the other gentleman talked about earlier, the guy had like 180 phone calls. That's incredible. We wouldn't get 180 phone calls in Memphis, I'll tell you that. But so now you find a renter who's looking to do a lease purchase, and in this example, they're putting down $5,000 non-refundable, and you've worked out it, so they're going to pay $750 a month, and it's a 2-year term, and they're going to buy the home in 2 years for $90,000. So again, you're negotiating terms up front for a future closing date. I'm sorry, the little remote died on me. All right, so as of right now, you've got $1,000 down to the seller. You've just taken a $5,000 down payment, non-refundable from them. Your monthly cash flow of $150 a month for the next 2 years is $3,600, and when you sell the home in 24 months, you'll make 15 grand, giving you a total profit of 22,600. Now, some of the big keys here are, you need to make sure that the person that you're putting in the home has a true realistic opportunity to actually qualify for financing. Because typically in scenarios like this, it's somebody whose credit doesn't quite qualify, and you need to kind of gauge that. You know, if someone shows up and they've got like a 500 credit score, and based on what the current, I mean, sometimes I think you have 620 credit scores can qualify for first-time home buyer type loans. Sometimes you need to get with a lender to get them with a lender or a credit repair type person who will give you a realistic idea of how long it's going to take for them to qualify. So that's you have to kind of base that on, like in this example, it's 24 months. It might take 36 or whatever, but you want it to happen soon, because if it doesn't work out for these people and they default and they move out, which is a real high potential, you need to get somebody else in there on the same type of term that's going to be able to execute that transaction. So you're not just trying to put renters in there now, you're looking for specific lease option type renters. Does that kind of make sense for a sandwich lease option?
Yeah, I got a question on that.
Yeah.
I think this is working now, but in any case, on the lease option, have you ever done any type of lease options where you found lenders that would actually let them qualify for a refinance as though they already own the property as opposed to an actual purchase?
I haven't.
Yeah, it's pretty difficult.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think that in order for that to work, you'd actually have to like quit claim it into their name, and if I'm not actually the owner and there's still a seller involved,
Yeah.
that's not going to work.
Yeah, they
Now,
won't
if
say
I owned the home, maybe.
Yeah, every lender I've talked to says you have to record it. If you record it, then you got the problem of
Yeah.
of foreclosure.
I have a quick question. In the sandwich lease option, how much information does the seller actually know of what your actions are? And how much do they need to know?
In this scenario, it's pretty likely that they're gonna know what's going on. If I was doing a transaction like this, I would fully disclose to them what I'm doing. People will accept transactions like this because they just don't wanna deal with the home anymore. And that's why you will get favorable terms. Now, if you've got someone who's playing hardball and they're like, I know these numbers are silly again, but like, I want $10,000 down, and I want this, and I want that, and they're just playing hardball, they're not necessarily motivated, but these are great options for people who, because the owner is still gonna be able to have the tax advantages, and they're gonna get some positive cash flow, and now they're not responsible for the home anymore. So in this example, they're making $600 a month, guaranteed every month, and they're not responsible for it anymore. So typically in scenarios like this, they have had a very difficult time trying to sell their home as well. So, because if they could sell it outright, they would have. So this is where you come into play. Oh, I guess that was kind of, anybody have any questions on any of these little to no money down type strategies? Anybody? We'll be around after this. But Craig Jennings is actually going to come up here. Can we introduce him, Dan?
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody.
All right.